Hello, friends, from a sweltering North End studio. This is your Daily Detroit for Thursday, June 23rd, 2022. Today, we're talking all things development, the things and projects that are happening around Metro Detroit. To help me do it, Robin Runyan from Urbanize. How are you?
I'm great, Jared. Thanks for having me again.
It's always great to have you, especially when you bring booze. So there is a Finnish long drink you have brought. Any specific reason for the Finnish long drink?
I am Finnish, and I was introduced to this last summer, but I think they just started selling it in Michigan. I'm pretty sure about that. They're very refreshing and a nice thing to drink in the summer. So, yeah, cheers.
Cheers, 100%. Like, the nose was great on this, and it is basically got grapefruit and juniper berry flavors, which super refreshing, super good. This is like a blue can. It says Legend of 1952 if you're looking for it.
They also have a cranberry one in a red can, and that is also very tasty.
So, long drink. Check it out. Who knew you'd get a booze? It's Daily Detroit. We got to have some sort of drink with us, right? Now, over the weekend, you got to go to the dedication of Turkey Stearnes Field at Hamtramck Stadium. So, Robin, I was so jealous that you got to go to this thing. Why don't you share a little bit about it?
I love baseball. Anyone who knows me knows that. And so this is a really cool project over in Hamtramck. This was a Negro League stadium back in the day, and one of the only ones standing in the country still. It hadn't been used for quite a while, and the grandstands were in really tough shape. The field was overgrown. So the Friends of Historic Hamtramck Stadium, they've been working for a few years to get this all together, get it back up and running. The grandstands are done now, and it's really nice. It's a really nice place to watch a game. It was a lot of public, private, government foundation grants that came in to pull this all together. And it was a really nice ceremony on Monday to kind of welcome a new era for the stadium.
And what does it look like in there? Like, does it look like your mind's eye would be for a stadium of that era? And I think it's important to note that, you know, Negro League baseball, and I use that term because that's what it was called. I would not usually use that word, otherwise, played such an important role in Detroit. And the Detroit Stars had so much history, and it's so great to see a place that honors them on a constant basis. But in your mind's eye, does it give you that feel of ye old baseball stadium?
I definitely felt like very happy there that I was sitting there, with the field in front of me, so many different kinds of people around me. It was a really nice atmosphere for a game, and it's really right in between. So Keyworth Stadium is on one side, and then the other side is Veterans Memorial Park in Hamtramck. So it's just a really, really nice place for the community.
Very cool. Make sure that you check something out over there. I know that I will. All right, before we go through a bunch of stories in the city, let's talk the suburbs. And I almost hate to bring this up, but I got to talk about it because there was a project of apartments that was denied from a planning perspective in the city of Livonia. And this was going to be basically like, there's this term called the middle, like the missing middle. Many cities miss kind of like a middle level set of apartments where they're maybe not, super luxury, but they're not super cheap. And they provide, density and ability to have more residents come in. One of the problems we have across the region is like a housing shortage. But basically, this would be near the old Wonderland Mall site. And it was going to be called what? The Wonderland Apartments?
Wonderland Village, which is right next to Walmart.
Okay, at Plymouth and Middlebelt Roads.
Yes.
Right, so we've got a Walmart. And apparently, residents were unhappy about the amount of people and type of people.
Yeah, so it's a 200-unit apartment building, which if you talk to anybody in real estate right now, we need more apartments. But some of the residents nearby didn't want, renters or possibly poor people walking around the neighborhood. So it'll be 3 stories tall, and the developer said, that they wouldn't be able to see into the neighboring houses and everything. But
wait a minute. The rents were supposed to be between $1,200 and $1,700 a month. That doesn't strike me as and it's not Section 8. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, look, and historically, if you don't know, Livonia has a long history of segregation and issues around these things for many years. Like, the city itself is steeped in this. Go look it up. It's some crazy stuff. It's also like one of the whitest communities in all of Metro Detroit. In fact, all the country. I can't help but look at these kind of situations where someone goes, this lot's been empty for a long time. People need housing. Livonia has land. It's not that population dense. And yet, no.
Yeah, I don't know. People don't like change. They don't like different kind of housing around their kind of housing. So this isn't very surprising to me. It happens all across the country everywhere. So
yeah, NIMBYism is a real thing. I will mention that the developer was talking about that there has been a flurry of activity in the area that shows the level of interest in that part of town. And the quote is, and this is from Hometown Life, and I just got to share this. I think Amazon and Chick-fil-A coming to this neighborhood says a lot about this neighborhood. Companies want to be here. I disagree that no one wants to be here because it's next to a Walmart. I mean, if your life goals is living to Walmart, I mean, I could see somebody's life goals being living next to Walmart.
Sure.
I mean, I used to think that Meijer and Walmart are completely different things. I used to think that everything I could get in life, I'd be able to find at a Meijer.
Most things.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to highlight this as another example of kind of NIMBYism, not in my backyardism. And this happens all over Metro Detroit. It happens all over the country. And it's part of the reason why we have a lack of housing, right? I mean, that's the bigger picture here that, yes, there's a historical context to know about. Yes, it seems silly to think that this undeveloped land, like you're worried about having apartments and, bringing people who don't make enough money in. Like, I feel like this is also an example of like why we can't have nice things. Like NIMBYism is a problem.
Yeah, for sure. And, it's too bad. Like I said, we need more apartments in the area. If you're going to live in a urban/suburban area, I think it's smart to have single family homes and duplexes and apartment complexes and a lot of different kinds of incomes all around you. It makes it for a more interesting experience.
Oh, for sure. And if you're looking for more background on this, go check out an episode of 99% Invisible, friend of the show, Roman Mars, who talked about this in Toronto. It's in all kinds of cities that have this issue of a missing middle. One city that does pretty well with it, Chicago. They have a lot of apartment buildings.
There you go.
That is interesting. So it's just something I wanted to highlight. And, it's kind of a shame in my opinion. All right. $38 million in low-income housing tax credits are coming from the state of Michigan to 4 developers building nearly 200 new units of affordable housing. So we're tying this kind of together. Now, this is actually for affordable housing. This is in the city of Detroit. They're calling it for very low income levels. As of this recording, we know that one of the projects is going to be at the old St. Michael's Catholic School. That's going to be converted to housing. The school to housing thing is something that it's a pretty neat trend that happened over near Banglatown, right? Near Hamtramck.
Yep, for sure. I love a good adaptive reuse, and this is deeply affordable housing. So this isn't just the 80% AMI. This is, getting down to the people who really need housing. So excited to see that come to life.
Now, I want to point out here that a lot of affordable housing, for actual affordability, it's required subsidies from the government to get done because a lot of times builders, and this isn't just a new thing, they want to build the thing that they can get the most profit on. And that often is on the higher end of the market. And so I wanted to highlight the importance of that. And then also highlight this is just blocks, easy walking distance from the streetscapes that are being installed that we talked about last week on East Warren near the Alger Theater and all that. And I know we covered it in depth on the podcast, but because you're so into development, I wanted to get your thoughts on it, Robin.
Yeah, I love seeing this across the city. I think it makes it so much easier for businesses to get people walking around, stopping in. People feel safer walking or biking or jogging when there's not big trucks like flying by or chargers, screaming by, or semi-trucks going down the road. So I think this is a win.
Robin, I got into a Facebook fight about semi-trucks on sidewalks.
You can't do that anymore, Jer. Come on. You know better.
I really should have done better. I really should have known better. I should have resisted. But when people were saying, so this is about the downtown in Roseville, and that they've redone Gratiot over there in a complete different way. And there was this idea and a number of people complaining that the semi-trucks should be able to turn right easier and that streets are not for people, that it's not good to have people out on the streets doing things. And I'm sitting there going, then what's the point of having a downtown? What's the point of living anywhere if you're not going to use the street?
Semi-trucks have rights too, Jer. So think about that.
Right. We couldn't put them behind the business. We couldn't do a different left turn and put it next to the business. We have to give them absolutely every single piece of land they absolutely can have, right? Because when I'm playing with my kid nephew, I want a semi-truck being able to be 3 feet from it. That's the way I want to live.
Or you're waiting to cross the street and a semi-truck is trying to make a turn in front of you. And you feel pretty good about that, you know?
And the emissions, like the smell of a semi-truck. Listen, there is nothing like waking up to the smell of diesel semi in the morning. I mean, you know, and this is not to besmirch truckers. That's the other thing. People are like, well, then you don't like truckers? That's not what I said at all. Like truckers and all that stuff, super important for our economy. I just don't want them driving on the sidewalk. Is that too much to ask in this town?
There are certain roads that are great for trucks.
Yeah, a downtown area shouldn't be one of them.
Absolutely.
There's another chapter in this Hudson saga, Robin. $60 million more are being requested by Bedrock Real Estate and the developers of this Hudson's Block project. There's a lot of thoughts. Residents came out in force at city council meetings against this thing. And as city council is known to do, they punted it down the line until Tuesday for a vote on this. There was a lot of talk about more education, things like that. Now, we all know that most tax breaks are not like cutting a direct check to a developer, but there is a lot of frustration with this one for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, this one's a tough sell for a lot of reasons. It's funny because, you know, last month they released some new renderings of the building just out of nowhere. Like they just showed up in the email one day. I'm like, wow, this is great. You know, we get to see what's being built because, you know, we're just watching it in real time, the construction. And now they're making this request for tax breaks. This project started a long time ago. They did get that big initial influx of tax breaks. Construction has gone slower than they intended, and prices have gone up. We get it. But, man, they've already gotten tax breaks, and this is a very poor city, and I'm not sold on it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I am sympathetic to the idea that Detroit city taxes are high. Like, there's a lot of data that shows that. We have episodes of the podcast. We have talked about this. But I think it's more of the coming back to the well again. Mm-hmm. And it's really frustrating. And then you hear the head lobbyist for Quicken say, hey, we were going to go for this anyway. And then when the Free Press does a report talking about the money that they, you know, did campaign contributions to different people, to council members, turns around and accuses one of the reporters who ran for council, who he had to know he didn't give money to. Like, what's up with your books? Like, that's just, and we've had Jared Fleischer on the show, but that's a BS move. Like, come on, just ask for what you're asking for and don't play that, like, stupid, but did you take money game? Like, that's dumb. Like, grow up. That's stupid.
Yeah. And I kind of get where they're coming from with the ask. This is, you know, buildings that are going to be transformational. They're going to be around for 100 or more years, hopefully, probably bring jobs in, maybe not as many as they say. Who knows who's going to, you know, be moving into offices in the next few years. But it's just a tough sell right now.
Yeah. I mean, and as I said, I'm sympathetic. Like, I understand that, you know, the Detroit News did a piece, Chad Livengood, talking about how tax rates on this will be higher than if it was built in New York and higher than other cities. And I believe that, but that should have been factored in way before this. And to come back like this just feels wrong to a lot of residents. I still think it's going to pass. I think it's going to pass.
I do too. They always do.
They always do, because nobody wants to say no to these things, right? Something I've learned covering, whether it's covering stadium projects around the nation or large projects, almost every council member is afraid of being the person who said no, and then something they say that, oh, we're going to pare it back. Maybe that's the thing that we're always going to do. But they say, oh, we're going to pare it back or we're not going to build it, because status trumps all the other stuff. And at the end of the day, if you want to convince somebody to do something, show them that it's going to increase their status to do it. And I haven't met a politician that can resist a ribbon cutting. And they want to be part of that ribbon cutting. And they want to be part of that thing. And there's a lot of residents, too, that also, you know, we've been losing population. They want to see, like, this gleaming tower. The tower's going to get built one way or another.
Yeah, they're not going to stop now.
I mean, and if they do, that's insane, right?
That would be even worse.
Yeah, and as I said, like, I have a lot of respect for the people over at Bedrock, but I just think that they're so much better than this move, or they should be. All right, the Gateway Center is in line for demolition at Washington and Michigan. It's been vacant a long time. It's kind of an ugly duckling building. It used to be a Quiznos. There used to be a Quiznos downstairs. Little known fact.
I did not visit it then, I'm sorry to say.
But it also is actually designed by Albert Kahn. It's another one of his buildings that's been remodeled. It was called the Finsterwald building, which I believe was a furniture store. Built in, I want to say like 1919, 1920, that kind of era, was much better looking. And then it hit the 70s and everything went downhill.
Yeah, that happened a lot back then. They decided they wanted to modernize it and kind of streamline everything, and it kind of took away a lot of the character. This is interesting that this is coming up now. This has been in the works for a long time, this talking about demo of this building. And there's a lot happening over in that area right now. Right across the street, the Book Cadillac is going to be kind of zhuzhed up by the new owners. Bedrock is working on the Book Tower just down the block.
Beautiful project.
Yep. And, there's new construction down over by Grand Circus Park. There's a lot going on down there. So I think it's good that it's coming down because it's not the best looking thing right there.
And it's just been sitting empty for so long, and it's not really good enough or beautiful enough at this point to like put all the effort in to save it. And it's kind of a strange size. And I feel like there's a lot more that you could do with that space.
Maybe they could tie it into the transit that's nearby at Rosa Parks.
You'd think, you'd hope, right? All right, 162 apartments are planned to go into the former Studebaker Sales and Service Building on Paquette and Brush in the Milwaukee Junction neighborhood. And it seems like every time you're here, Robin, the Milwaukee Junction neighborhood comes up. It's like we swing a rubber chicken and say Milwaukee Junction 3 times, and Robin Runyan appears.
Yeah, it seems like it's the place to be right now. There's a lot going on over there. There's a huge Fisher body plant that's, moving along right now. And they're going to turn it into apartments. I still can't believe it, really. This is great. It's right next to the Paquette plant, which is beautiful, and it'll bring in much-needed apartments. I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah. Apparently, it's going to be more than $37 million in project. And what they're going to have what they now are calling workforce housing rates. Have you ever heard of this term?
Probably at some point. Not recently.
Because I wonder if this is a new way to talk about affordable housing without it because in reality, affordable housing for the most part under federal guidelines is for middle class folks. And then deeply affordable is like what we talked about earlier in the show. And I can understand why the public would be very confused by that.
Yeah, it seems like that term came up a long time ago when they were building around factories and stuff, the small houses and apartments and everything.
So apparently the rents would be 70 to 120% of the average median income, with 9% of the units below 70%, more than half at 80%, and more than a third of them at 100%. So if you didn't need more numbers to make your head spin. But the idea is that they can kind of program this for more middle-class folks. So they say this one's going to be done in December of 2023. It's going to be an interesting next couple of years in that neighborhood.
It really will. It would be worth going around and taking some pictures right now. And, in a few years, seeing how it's changed, because it's great that they're reusing all these old factories. I'm a big fan of adaptive reuse.
And make sure to get your caffeine at Milwaukee Cafe, because that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's plenty of places to go if you need anything around there right now.
That's true. That's true. All right, let's end the show on a fun one. The old Ford house is for sale in Boston, Edison. I've driven by it a number of times over the years. I've never had the chance to go in. I've always wanted to. I think that the longtime owners have done a great job. I think it's nearly 4 decades that they've held on to this place. Apparently, according to a number of sources, it's Gerald and Marilyn Mitchell who have had this building for a long time. They've put a lot of care into it. They came here to Detroit and wanted to do something, and they have. They've really made it a beautiful spot. They say that they're going to list it for close to $1 million, $975,000. What do you think?
Yeah, this is one of those rare historical listings that comes along once a year or two that has both a historical, stories that go along with it, but also it's been kept up really well. They're asking $975,000. We're looking at 7,200 square feet, plus just the grounds are beautiful. There's really pretty backyard and property. There's also a big carriage house in the back. It's been kept up. Hopefully it goes to somebody who can take care of it. So, this is a really specific buyer they're looking for.
Yeah, let's talk about that buyer, because there's a number of houses like this that come up, as you said, every once in a while. And you're like, I hope the right person gets this so that it doesn't get trashed.
Yeah, and that's happened a lot over the years, is that, different houses have been modernized in a way that's not really respectful or turned into apartments or something. And this one really does have that older character to it. And I think there's a real chance to keep that intact. I certainly wouldn't be the person to buy it even if I had the money. I think that the grounds are beautiful. There's a lot of detail in here.
I just love the walkway into the grounds. Mm-hmm. If you're somebody who wants that entertaining garden, and I know people like that, I wish I had more time to be that person.
Right.
To have that big entertaining garden and all of that stuff. I feel like actually, if you compare it to many other houses around the country, I feel like it's a steal.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, if you put this anywhere else, it's going to go for a lot more.
All right, Robin Runyan, it's always great to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and enjoying a nice Finnish long drink with me.
I am almost finished with my Finnish long drink.
There you go.
I could not escape the show without a pun. Where can people find all things Robin Runyan?
At Urbanize Detroit.
All right, well, thank you so much to you for listening. I appreciate you. I'm Jer Stays. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around Detroit.